Part 1. The hidden language of her interest, they say. Silence speaks louder than words. But sometimes, what you fail to hear is what costs you connection. A woman's interest doesn't always come wrapped in laughter or bold gestures. It often hides behind a simple question, waiting for you to notice. Most men miss it not because they're blind, but because the signs have changed. When you were young, attraction was obvious playful smiles, teasing touches, long glances across a room. Now maturity has reshaped the language of affection. A woman in her 50s doesn't chase. She opens a small window, a moment of curiosity, to see if you're awake enough to feel it. If you don't recognize it, the window closes quietly. You walk away thinking it was just a nice chat. But she walks away thinking, he didn't see me. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." If your mind is tuned only to the loud and obvious, you'll miss the quiet signals that speak from the heart. In the Stoic way, awareness is everything. Epictetus taught, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." When a woman asks something small, she's not testing your logic. She's testing your presence. She wants to feel that you're grounded enough to catch meaning beneath the words. It's never about impressing. It's about being calm enough to notice. Because real attraction isn't built on charm. It's built on recognition. Think of it like this. She might ask about your day or your view on something simple. If you meet her curiosity with warmth instead of autopilot replies, you turn a passing moment into connection. Seneca said, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness." That's what attraction truly is, after 50 not fireworks or games, but 2 souls recognizing each other in quiet courage. Next time a woman asks a soft question, don't rush to answer. Pause. Look her in the eye. That moment might not be about information. It might be an invitation. And in that silence between words, connection begins. Part to the question that tests your confidence, they say, attraction fades with age. But the truth is it only fades when confidence does. Because after 50, women no longer look for youth, they look for presence. And sometimes, the way she finds out who you are is through a question that sounds simple but isn't. She leans in and asks, "How old are you really?" Most men think she's being playful or nosy. But what she's really asking is deeper. How do you carry your years? Do you wear them with shame or pride? Do you hide from time or stand tall beside it? Marcus Aurelius said, "It is not death that a man should fear, but never beginning to live." A man who jokes, deflects, or tries to appear younger shows fear. But a man who smiles and says, "Old enough to know what matters, young enough to enjoy it," speaks from strength. He's not clinging to the past. He's living in the present. That's what attracts her. Not the number, but the calm that comes from a man who accepts himself. I once met a man named Rick, 64, sharp and confident. He told me about a woman he met at a jazz lounge. She asked him softly, "How old are you really?" Rick, trying to be clever, said, "Too old for you." She laughed politely, but the warmth disappeared. Later he realized it wasn't a joke she wanted. It was truth. Seneca once wrote, "He who is brave is free." And that's what this moment is about. Freedom from pretending, freedom from fear. When you answer with grace, when you own your story instead of hiding it, she sees something rare. A man who's lived, learned, and still dares to love. Next time a woman asks about your age, don't hear it as curiosity. Hear it as a test of confidence. Because what she really wants to know isn't how many years you've had, but how many you've truly lived. Part 3. Why she asks why you're not married sometimes. The most revealing question a woman asks isn't bold, it's quiet. She looks at you and says softly, "Why aren't you married?" Most men hear judgment, but it isn't that. It's curiosity wrapped in hope. What she's really asking is, are you still open? Is there room in your heart for someone new? Marcus Aurelius said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." When she asks, she isn't testing your past. She's seeing if you've healed from it. She wants to know if you've let the past become wisdom or a wall. Many men stumble here. Some open up too much, spilling every heartbreak and regret. Others close the door completely, answering with bitterness or jokes. Both answers tell her the same thing: you're still trapped by what came before. But the Stoic man meets the moment with balance. He doesn't deny his story, nor does he drown in it. He simply stands in truth. Say something like, "Life kept me moving, but now I've got room for something real." That's calm strength, no defense, no performance. Epictetus once said, "We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond." That's what she's looking for, the response of a man who's grown, not broken. I knew a man named Gerald, 67. Quiet, gentle, he met a woman in a community garden. They talked about tomatoes and sunlight for weeks. One afternoon she asked, "So, how come you're not married?" Caught off guard, he mumbled, "Things just didn't work out." She smiled faintly, and by next week, she was gone. Later, he said, "I didn't realize she was asking because she was thinking about us." Seneca once wrote, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." That's the wisdom of the Stoic heart, to recognize when life offers a second chance disguised as a simple question. So, when she asks, don't defend, don't explain. Just speak with quiet clarity. Because behind her question isn't doubt, it's possibility. And when you answer with presence, she'll feel something deeper than words. The peace of a man who's ready. Part 4. When she asks if you date younger women, sometimes a woman doesn't ask to know your type. She asks to know if she has a chance. When she looks at you and says, "Do you date younger women?" It's not about age, it's about value. She's wondering if your connection is real, or if she's just another number in a man's passing phase. Most men either puff up, bragging like it's a compliment, or shrink, turning the moment into a joke. But neither response carries depth. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." That's what she's searching for. Not your preference, but your presence. A man who sees her not as younger or older, but as alive. A wise answer never lists ages or types. It reveals mindset. You could simply say, "I don't date by age, I connect by energy. What matters to me is how a woman makes me feel, not the date on her birth certificate." Those words show maturity, awareness, and quiet power. They tell her that you're not chasing youth, you're embracing depth. Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And that's the truth behind attraction. You don't earn respect by chasing validation. You earn it by knowing your worth. I remember a man named Arcus, 59, graceful and confident. He met a woman in a bookstore. They talked about travel, about life. After a few laughs, she asked, "Do you date younger women?" He smiled and said, "I like women who bring good energy, no matter their age." Her smile changed. It wasn't polite, it was hopeful. That night turned into dinner. Dinner became connection. Seneca said, "Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity." Arcus didn't get lucky, he was ready. Because he didn't miss the moment when a question opened the door. So when she asks that question, don't see it as a test. See it as a mirror. How you answer reflects not your age, but your strength. And when you answer with calm assurance, she won't remember your number, she'll remember your energy. Part 5. When she asks what kind of woman you go for, a woman's curiosity often hides her heart. When she asks, "What kind of woman do you usually go for?" she's not trying to make conversation. She's quietly asking, "Do I belong in your world?" Most men answer by listing traits, looks, hobbies, interests, but that turns connection into a checklist. She's not asking to compare herself, she's hoping to fit. Marcus Aurelius said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." So when you answer, let it reflect who you are, not what you collect. Speak of the values that anchor you. You could say, "I'm drawn to kindness, curiosity, and a sense of calm." Or, "Someone who brings peace when she walks into the room." Those words tell her more than any description ever could. They show you've moved beyond appearances you see with presence. Epictetus once said, Appearances are of four kinds. Things are, or they appear to be. When your answer comes from clarity, not image, she feels seen, not judged. And in that moment, she starts imagining herself beside you. I remember Elliot, 62, a retired firefighter. He met a woman while volunteering. One day she asked softly, "So what kind of woman do you go for?" Without thinking, he said, "Someone who makes the space feel peaceful just by being there." Later, she told him, "I was hoping I was your type," Seneca said. To be loved is to be seen. And that's the essence of it. All women don't fall for men who list desires. They fall for men who radiate understanding. So next time she asks that question, pause. Don't describe her. Recognize her. Because the kind of woman you truly go for might already be standing right in front of you. Part 6. The charm and the courage to stay open. Sometimes attraction hides in humor. She smiles and says, "Are you always this charming?" It sounds playful, almost teasing, but this moment holds weight. She's not asking for a compliment. She's opening a door. Most men laugh it off or answer with ego. But she's not testing your wit. She's testing your calm. She wants to see if you can hold warmth without losing yourself. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." In this case, the best response isn't to perform, it's to stay grounded. A simple reply like, "Only when someone brings it out of me," turns flirtation into connection. It tells her you're not hiding behind charm, you're sharing it. Confidence is quiet. It's in the man who meets her eyes and stays still. In the man who doesn't chase laughter but listens for meaning. Epictetus said, "If you wish to be good, first believe that you are bad." To be charming in the Stoic way means to remain humble even when desired. You don't need to prove your worth. You need to embody it. I remember Alan, 68, calm and dignified. At a dinner party, a woman leaned in and asked, "Are you always this charming?" He smiled and said, "That depends. Are you always this curious?" She didn't stop looking at him the rest of the night. Because real attraction isn't loud, it lingers in presence. And then there's another question even more revealing. Why don't you have a girlfriend? It may sound casual, but she's not just filling silence. She's wondering if your heart is still capable of connection. Seneca said, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." So don't answer with bitterness or excuses. Say something like, "I've taken my time, but I'm open to being surprised." That shows growth, self-awareness, and peace. Women don't look for perfection, they look for presence. A man who has lived, learned, and still dares to feel. Because that kind of man doesn't chase love. He attracts it simply by being whole. Part 7, when she finally asks, "Would you ever date someone like me?" There's a moment when words stop being casual, when a woman looks at you and asks softly, "Would you ever date someone like me?" She isn't joking. She's revealing her heart trapped in a smile, disguised as a question. Most men freeze, laugh, or change the subject. But this question isn't small talk, it's courage in disguise. She's not asking for approval. She's asking, "Am I safe to care for you?" Marcus Aurelius said, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together." When a woman asks that, fate is speaking through her. It's not about age, status, or logic. It's about connection, waiting for acknowledgement. I knew a man named Charlie, 66, ex-military, steady as stone. He'd been walking with a woman he'd grown close to for months. One evening, under the fading sun, she whispered, "Would you ever date someone like me?" He looked at her and said, "I think I'd be a fool not to." She smiled, took his hand, and kept walking. Seneca said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." That moment taught Charlie what courage looks like, not the kind from battlefields, but the kind that opens your heart after years of silence. And sometimes words aren't needed at all. She leans closer. Her eyes linger. Her hand brushes yours for a second too long. These aren't accidents, they're confessions without sound. Epictetus wrote, "No great thing is created suddenly." Connection grows quietly, through awareness and presence. When you miss these small signs, the moment slips away. But when you meet them with calm and warmth, something timeless unfolds. After 50, attraction doesn't shout, it whispers. It comes in the form of a question, a look, a pause. And when it does, your role isn't to perform, it's to see. Because when you meet her curiosity with grace, you stop being another man in her story. You become the one who finally understood her silence. Part 8. The quiet language of attraction. Not every sign of attraction is spoken. Sometimes it lives in silence, in the way she leans in just a little closer, the way her eyes hold yours longer than they should, or the way her laughter lingers after your words fade. These aren't coincidences. They're the language of quiet interest, the whispers of emotion that words can't express. Most men overlook them, not because they're blind, but because they're busy listening for noise instead of presence. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Look within. Within is the fountain of good, and it will ever bubble up if thou wilt ever dig." If you look only outward, you'll miss what's unfolding right in front of you. Real connection requires awareness, not to analyze, but to feel. I remember Daniel, 70, a widower who joined a small film club. He thought the woman who sat beside him was simply friendly. She laughed at his jokes, touched his hand, leaned close during scenes. But when she stopped showing up, he finally realized those moments were never small. They were invitations, and he had walked right past them. Seneca said, "While we are postponing, life speeds by." And that's what happens when you miss the quiet signs of affection. Attraction doesn't wait, fades like warmth in the evening air. Epictetus once taught, "Be silent for the most part, or speak only what is necessary." Right. That's the secret. When you're present enough to notice what isn't said, you become the kind of man who makes women feel safe to reveal themselves. After 50, attraction no longer shouts, it whispers. It's in the questions, the pauses, the small gestures that say, "I see you." And when you meet those moments with calm and honesty, you turn silence into something sacred. Because real love doesn't begin with words, it begins with awareness. Part 9. When attraction whispers after 50, attraction no longer shouts. It whispers. It doesn't arrive with fireworks or grand gestures. It hides in soft questions, subtle glances, and the quiet space between two people who finally see each other. Most men miss these moments not because they're blind, but because they're not present. They expect signs to be loud, obvious, easy. But at this stage of life, real connection speaks in silence. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Look well into yourself. There is a source of strength which will always spring up, if you will always look." When you learn to listen with awareness, you stop chasing attention. You start noticing presence. A woman's interest doesn't live in words like "you're handsome." It lives in how she remembers your stories, in how her voice softens when she says your name, or the way her laughter stays a second longer than it should. Epictetus said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." That's the secret. Listen beyond words. Hear what her eyes are saying, what her silence is offering. I once met a man named Daniel, 70 years old, quiet, kind. He joined a film club after losing his wife. There was a woman there who laughed at his jokes, touched his arm, leaned closer every week. He thought she was just being nice. When she stopped showing up, he realized she'd been waiting for him to notice. Seneca wrote, "While we are postponing, life speeds by." Every moment you fail to notice connection, it slips quietly into memory, and the door that was once open closes softly behind you. After 50, attraction isn't about chasing, it's about seeing. It's in the way you pause when she speaks, in the way you hold her gaze without fear. You don't need to impress. You only need to recognize. Because true connection doesn't start with the words you set, begins with the awareness that someone, right there in front of you, has been waiting to be seen.